Fellow Ambazonians, the objective observer, your inability to study vector matrices in your secondary level of education and to engage interaction, intervention in an attempt to complement normal estimation model at doctoral level is the basis of using falsehood to justify what you claim is falsehoods. Munzo, Dr. Munzo, your inability to study vector and matrices in your secondary level of education and to engage interaction and intervention in an attempt to complement or supplement normal estimation model at doctoral level is the basis of using falsehood to justify what you claim is falsehood. Dr. Munzo. Yes, the 14th of November 2022, the objective voice again. I am directing this message to Dr. Munzo. Yes, we have listened to him present an outing full of vocabularies, full of high-level choice of words, full of good constructive English. That is good on his side. That may be his own power, that ability to connect high-level vocabularies and construct good English, maybe your own power, maybe your own base, but that does not gives you the room. Munzo, that does not gives you the room to use falsehood to justify what you are claiming is falsehood. Yes, Dr. Munzo, if you have studied vector in secondary school, because I think you must have been those people who run away from mathematics classes. Yes. Life is not about being in one direction. Multiple talent, multiple disciplines, having knowledge across genre makes you have a more apex level of reasoning. Dr. Munzo, you can be those students who are running their mathematics classes at secondary school or even primary school. They never want to see someone write mathematics on the board. Because if you have been in that class and you understand what is a vector, that a vector is a phenomenon or an object that has magnitude and a direction, and you have understood their matrices, what Mendeleev applied in genetics to let us know how you, Munzo, what happened with your Y chromosomes and your X chromosomes to create your boy child. What happened with your X chromosomes and your Y chromosomes to create a girl child. If you have understood how matrices come about and how you can intervene and interact phenomena in research, because it seems as if at a doctoral level you just do review of past publications in line with some chartered, and then you make a publication without seeing how some effects can connect with one another to create an effect. You didn't study how, for you to be able to learn in one direction, you must have a medium where you can first learn on it before you get to another. You did not see the rule of intervention. You did not see the rule of interaction. You did not study even how factors changes to cause effect on another factor. So without combining this mathematical ability, without combining this potential to see how you connect phenomena, to know that a phenomenon that has a magnitude, it has a starting point, and move towards a specific direction like velocity, you will not be able to have a good judgment in line with our case. I'm asking you about vector, Munzo, because you came out and you are asking us questions that what our forefathers took us in 1961 to this union. That's what you were claiming. That they did not force us into the union. Our forefathers went into the union. And because our forefathers went into the union in 1961, the federation in 1961, we are supposed to stay on it. And we have no judgment. Why are we claiming for mediation where we have no judgment? What do we want to take to the mediation table? Because we have no argument. And that's why you quoted Professor Carson Anyangwe, your colleague, who is also in Canada. That's just to tell fellow Ambazonians that Professor Carson Anyangwe is in alliance with Munzo, and going to Canada, they are not going to discuss something different from one Cameroons. So, Munzo, you are trying to tell us that our forefathers took us to 1961, and so we have no argument. They didn't force us. We have no argument to take to any mediation. I'm asking you, why did La Republic then not go to the international mediation? If we have no argument to take, what about the Banjul case? What about the case we won at Banjul, Munzo? That's why I said you lack what? Interaction, intervention, matrices, vectors, knowledge to be able to connect phenomenon, to give a sound judgment to what? To our situation. Why are you focused on 1961? If we say that vector is a phenomenon that has a direction and a magnitude, it means it has somewhere it starts. That's why I say you should apply the knowledge in vector. It has somewhere it starts. And then it's moving towards a certain direction. Is the basis of the our problem, Ambazonian problem, the Southern Cameroon problem, the basis is in 1961. Is that where your own vector? If they want to talk about the magnitude of our situation, they want to talk about the magnitude of the Southern Cameroons enslavement, does it start in 1961? Munzo. Does our vector, the magnitude of our problem start in 1961? Does it even start with the UN trusteeship, the UN charter? Munzo, go and do research. It seems as if some of you, as I said, you have not done a proper research at your doctoral level. Because if you did a proper research at your doctoral level and try to get into intervention, interaction, estimation models, and try to bring in the rule of matrices, you try to bring in the rule of a vector in analysis, you will discover that you are bringing a falsehood to justify what you claim is falsehood. That is true. You are, maybe you seem to be aware, you are not ignorant, but just try to find argument. But your arguments are very weak because you have not gone to the root of the problem. When they said, let's go to the root causes of the problem, Munzo, the root causes of the problem is the starting point of that vector. And the root causes of the problem is not in 1961. The root causes of the problem needs to go into the mandatory system. That's why if you study Nelly Mead's publication in 2005, Nelly Mead's publication in what? In 2005, talking about what? The origin of the trusteeship agreement. The mandatory system as the origin of the trusteeship agreement. Nelly Mead will tell you that the mandatory system had classified category A, B, and C. Category A, B, and C in the mandatory system. That was just passed it over to the trusteeship system. And if you study it at that level, Dr. Munzo, you will know that the vector has its origin right in 1919, after the First World War. That is where the vector of our situation has its origin. That's where you can start the magnitude. You can start decoding it right from the mandatory system. And if you study this article in 2005, written by Nelly Meads, you will know that he clearly stated in it that these territories called mandatory territories were handed to them to what? These Western powers, telling them that you had to build them to a full independent nation, power enough to govern themselves. You were just mandatory to take care of them, govern them, build them, train them unto the level where they will be autonomous to have what? Full governance of themselves. And so, during the mandatory system, Ambazonians were category B, La République category B, handed to British and France to govern us and push us towards independence, towards self-governance. Then is 1961 the basis of our problem? Let me tell you, if you have studied matrices combined to the UN Charter and go and look at the words of Dag Hammarskjöld that was killed in a plane crash by the British and the French alliance, because Dag Hammarskjöld came out and said in 1961 that merging Southern Cameroons to La République is placing a balloon under the water. That balloon one day comes out. Why did you not lay hands on these words of Dag Hammarskjöld? Munzo, you came out and said we have no argument. Why do you not lay? Are you more powerful in terms of international politics and international relationship and international law than the head of the United Nations, Dag Hammarskjöld? Munzo, I applaud you for your constructive English and high level vocabularies, choice of vocabularies that you are using. But those vocabularies do not give us the word, the truth in whatever thing you are trying to discuss. Are you, Dr. Munzo, are you better off upstairs than Dag Hammarskjöld, the man that was killed in a plane crash by the British and French alliance? Are you better off Scarson Anyangwe, whom you think is your ally, better off upstairs in international politics, international relation, international law than Dag Hammarskjöld? When you start your claim, your vector, in 1961, you have cut part of the magnitude of our problem and put it behind. And therefore, that is the basis of what? Your falsehood. Munzo, the basis of your falsehood is that you have come up and placed your claim from 1961 and touched a little bit of 1966, 1946, talking about UN Charter. And from there you move on, cutting a chunk of the vector, the magnitude, the size of the magnitude of that particular phenomenon, cutting it and leaving it behind. And then you lack other aspects of the metrics to combine to bring out a strong argument. One of the greatest points in which we were supposed to lay claims upon, Dr. Munzo, was for you to lay claims on the words of Dag Hammarskjöld in 1961. I think that you are that person that run away from your mathematics. I may not blame you because you run away from mathematics classes. I cannot blame you because you don't have a basis of vector. You don't have a basis of matrices. And even if you have a little, you are that type of person that cannot apply. You learn and you cannot apply in reality. Because if you could apply, you wouldn't have studied vector that you know it has a magnitude and a direction, a phenomenon, and then you cannot be able to know the size of the magnitude of Ambazonian problem. Go right to the root of where the problem started. You come and end in 1961 and think that we don't have a claim. If you have studied matrices, you will bring out those your argument and you lay claims on the words of Dag Hammarskjöld. That's another angle, another area where you can use as a bullet to justify the point of Ambazonia that we cannot merge together with French Cameroon, because the UN Charter, the mandatory system says that there are people with a separate culture, a people with a separate religion, a people with some separate standard with international boundaries. They should be molded to an independent nation. Do we have a separate culture? Yes. Do we have a separate way of doing our things, a separate system? Yes. both in law and educational system, different from that of La Republique? Are we supposed to be were we supposed to be merged with La Republique? Of course, no. The Hamajok, the head of the United Nations, at that moment where they were trying to take that decision, had already seen that it is not possible because of the different in cultural backgrounds. Munzo, can you go back and be more real in your discussion? And again, there is something in project management called variance analysis, performance evaluation, and variance analysis. This is where you use to study the risks. In managing and executing project, there's a possibility that the target may not be obtained. And at each moment along monitoring and evaluation, you have to be checking whether the target, what you set at the beginning during the planification phase of a project life cycle, is meeting up. So, as long as you are executing a project, there's a constant monitoring and evaluation, performance analysis, and risk analysis. Munzo, what is the name of Cameroon today? What is the name of that union? What is the name? What is the name that territory is bearing? Republic of Cameroon. Is that not the name of that nation at independence, Munzo? So if you say that you have your name Republic of Cameroon as independent, then go back and maintain your boundaries when you get your independent. Why this falsehood, Munzo? You see, there were variances after 1961 when they agreed to come out with that name, Federal Republic of Cameroon. What happened in 1972 when they go and change the name to United Republic of Cameroon? What happened in 1984 when Pobia came out and unanimously said that this is Republic of Cameroon? Are you not seeing variance as we progress along the vector, along the phenomenon? Are you not seeing a risk factor? When you are too naive, you run away from your risk classes, your mathematics classes. You run away from your biology classes where you could study Mendeleev, how they come out with the X and Y chromosomes and how a boy child and a girl child comes about, to know that that's the aspect of matrices. How you can be able to develop bullet points in order to bring out a strong argument. You think all about it is to go and read the United Nations Charter and be making noise. You see that you are lacking because you do not have power in risk analysis. If you have power in evaluation and monitoring, in performance evaluation, along the execution of project, you have been able to know that even from that 1961 when the union came together, there have been so much deviation from the standard that were laid down in that 1961. There have been so much variances from the standard that were laid down. When they were laid down, they did not tell you that you come and dismantle our police. You come and bring your military to come over and sweep over our police. They did not tell you that you come over and dismantle our institutions. The Cameroon Bank, the Power Camp, all those institutions that we had. They did not tell you that go and dismantle them. With these deviations, with this risk analysis, that's where Foncha went again to United Nations and start crying. That's when a lot of us have been out there telling the United Nations that there have been deviation even from the 1961. If you want to say that, let us start the vector from 1961 as per your shallow nature. Per your inability to study vector and matrices in secondary school. If you want to start from 1961 and try to do what we call risk analysis, deviations from the standard, deviation from the targets, you will have seen that there have been a lot of risks, and that's why we have been subjugated. That's why we have been considered second-hand citizens. That's why we have been tormented. We have been maltreated, and even Pobia Munzo. If you have matrices, ability to use matrices in your argument, ability to use intervention, interaction, and what estimation models in your argument, you will have known that Pobia went to France in 2019 or 2020 and outspokenly said that what? We try to assimilate them. We try to assimilate these people. We try to make them look like French people. We try to wipe out their culture, wipe out their language, make them to become French citizens. That is the words of Paul Biya. If you are very just, Munzo, if you are very just and not too shallow in your mathematics, if you did not run your mathematics at secondary level, if you did not escape from just biology, study genetics at your secondary level, if you have engaged into intervention, interaction, and estimation models as your doctorate, you will be able to connect a lot of phenomena to have an argument to take to the negotiation table in Swiss. That's why you don't have anything to take to Swiss, and that's why Carson and Nyangwe don't have anything to take to Swiss, because you both escaped from your vector knowledge in secondary school, matrices knowledge in secondary school, and your doctoral degree was just a review of other publications, and you did not do anything concerning interaction, intervention, and normal estimation models, and you are empty. You cannot be able to connect points. If you were able to connect points, you have laid hands on the word of the Hamajok. You have laid hands on the word of Paul Biya in France that we came here to assimilate them. We wanted to take over their culture, take over their language and everything, and make them French people. Paul Biya came in to continue what Ahijo could not finish. Munzo, completely eradicate our culture, eradicate our institution, destroy us completely. That is what we had. We had a lot of arguments to take to the negotiation table, and our argument will not start from 1961, Munzo. Our argument will start from the mandatory system. We'll get in touch with research publications like that of Nelly Meads in 2005. We'll touch those publications and many others. That is the mandatory system giving room to the trusteeship system. We'll get to that 1919 mandatory system. From there, we'll begin the vector. We'll have a lot of argument based on the articles brought out by scholars. Not empty heads like yours who think that you can use only English and law to maneuver your way into arguing that we don't have a position, we don't have an argument to take to the negotiation table. You cannot use only English and UN Charter that you have read over and think that you can use it to support your point. We have so many bullet points through matrices. We have a bullet point from Paul Biya, who appeared in France and told the general global economy that we try to assimilate these people. We have been trying to capture them to make them look like us, but it has failed us. That's the word of Paul Biya. Paul Biya inherited this from Ahijo. Ahijo took this right from 1961 and tried to convert us to become French people. That was not the agreement. That was not the target. There have been deviation from the standards. Munzo, don't only try to get into high-level vocabularies. Don't only try to make good constructive English. Try to have arguments that can make you powerful. It's not about English. It's about supportive points. Even you as a lawyer, you know that you don't go to the law with empty hands. You go to the case, to the court with empty hands, with English and vocabularies and what? With English and vocabulary. You go with facts. And if you go to that law, to the court with only 1961, then you are failed, because that is not the root of the issue. The vector did not start in 1961. The vector or the phenomenon, you can get to the mandatory system and see the mandatory system say it clearly that the category B trust territories or mandate territories were handed to these European powers to mold them to full independent nations. Then you will be asking yourself that why did the Queen, that's why we are saying that the Queen sold us to who? To the Republic. That is why we get from the mandatory arguments, mandatory system argument, and we bring out a point, Munzo, to say the Queen sold us to La Republique, to French, to the Gulf, Charles de Gaulle, because the mandatory system did not tell the Queen that after when you have molded these people to full-fledged people, you should go and attach them to another people with a different culture. Instead, that's the opposite of what the mandatory system wanted. That's instead the opposite of what the UN trust territory wanted. UN trust territory wanted that if you are a trust territory with your culture, with your identity, with your history, You should take it and go on and stand as independent nation. What the 1961 agenda did is that they were aggravating colonization. Instead of decolonization in 1961, they were reversing the concept of decolonization and attaching colonization. What they did in 1961 was that they just handed us to another African territory to colonize us. So they reversed. And that's why the Hamajok refused that. Don't go reverse. Munzo, get me. The Hamajok said, don't go reverse. If we say we want to do decolonization, then don't create a rule for colonization. Because what you are trying to fix in 1961 with a fake plebiscite is colonization you are creating. That's why you say, as you are merging these two people with different culture, let me tell you, Munzo, the Hamajok is an intellectual. He studied the mandatory system very well and understood that what he was doing as a UN Secretary General was just something that originated from the mandatory system, and he was just following it. So because of his intellectual ability, that Hamajok, because of his knowledge of international relationship, because of his knowledge of international law, because of his knowledge of mandatory system, because of his determination to do what, to end colonization, he rejected that they should not attach Southern Cameroons to La Republic, because that is another form of colonization. And since he was out to decolonize territory, he rejected that they should not create a method where another territory will swallow another. Munzo, that is what we have at hand to take to that table. Adding to the words of Paul Biya, adding to so many deviations that have taken place, the variances that have taken place from the standard that were set in 1961 by Ayijo and Paul Biya. Munzo, get me very well. I will end this by telling you that, please, you are of age. Don't think that it's only English that will make your brain more expanding. Don't think that it's already law that can make your brain start expanding. If you miss some mathematics classes at your ordinary level, this is the high time to go and study them before you finally go to your graveyard. If you miss some biology classes to show how matrices using phenomena like the Mendeleev theory, go and start studying them. It's not late. If you did just a review at your doctoral level, it is better you start studying how you can create intervention, interaction, estimation models, because this gives you a more elaborate way to come out with a strong argument to justify your point. We have a wonderful argument right from the words of Paul Biya, right from the word of the Hamajok, right from the mandatory system as a vector that started in 1919. That vector started in 1919. The magnitude is coming right up to today. It has a direction. The direction is that it is taking us to Boya. We have a strong point. So when we go to on the table, we have a point. That's why La Republic does not want to come to the table. I'm telling you, because you say if the separatists, they say they want to go back to a mediation. What argument do they want to take to the mediation? The fact that our father did mistake does not mean that we are going to get into the mistake. That our father may come into a union in a form of what? Love. But the variances, the risks that Paul Biya has created and Ayijo has created, they created so much variances from the target that were set. It's enough for us to go out there and tell the United Nations that you made an error. We have to tell Antonio Guterres that go back and take the words of Dag Hammarskjöld. Dag Hammarskjöld stipulated and saw this problem before he died. Before he was pushed into a plane crash, Dag Hammarskjöld have solved the problem. So Antonio Guterres should go back and take the words of Dag Hammarskjöld where he left and finish his work. The work is into the hands of Antonio Guterres and he has to finish it. So don't come here with your empty heads in mathematics, your empty heads in the knowledge of vectors, your empty heads in the knowledge of matrices, your empty heads in the knowledge of intervention, interaction, and estimation models in research, and you think that you can have a strong argument that can surpass those who can combine 100 phenomena to produce a premise that match to our situation and hand it over to United Nations. Thank you, fellow Ambazonians. Direct this message to to Dr. Munzo, that we are more powerful. We know the genesis of the problem. We know we cannot permit him to take the vector, the magnitude of the vector to start only from 1961. We know where the vector started, and we know the direction of the vector. We know the magnitude of the vector, and we know where the vector is moving to. And we have other phenomena, matrices phenomena that we can combine to make sure that we move that vector towards the right direction in Boya. And we have a strong argument. That's why Alpolic failed to come to the table. Let them go to the table, Munzo. You will see the separatists will come out. They will win them on that table. The separatists will win even you, Munzo, because it is not English, it is not grammar, it is not reading charter. It is about combining matrices and combining vectors and know where they know the intensity, the magnitude of what? The phenomenon. Thank you for Ambazonians.